A comprehensive 9-wicket win for South Africa to level the T20I series. We're going to look back at that game on ESPNcricinfo match day presented by Mutual Funds Sahi Hai. And on a curious day when Virat Kohli decided he wants to put his own team under pressure by putting them outside their comfort zone, Agarkar, and making them have a bat first. Kohli, of course, loving to chase in the shorter formats. Quinton de Kock leading the way. Let's talk about South Africa first, and then we'll come back to Kohli's decision. Bjorn Hendricks was an inspired selection, came in and a man of the match performance for him.
Yeah, and the way he bowled. I mean, not just the man of the match performance, but India, they needed early wicket. Rohit had a sort of good start against Rabada the previous over, and once he gets going, can be a hard man to stop. So really good ball to him, and then continued from there, and then just kept getting wickets. Anytime you get wickets at crucial stages, I think got Krunal Pandya out later on in the innings, but just the consistency of his bowling. It was a little bit too paced. There was a bit in that pitch where you weren't quite sure, or you couldn't. It wasn't a typical Bengaluru pitch, Chinnaswamy pitch, but he had to bowl well, and that the right selection for the night.
If we have to talk about right decisions or not, and we'll focus on now Virat Kohli's decision, because that helped Bjorn Hendricks in some ways bowl at a time that you would think was better off for the bowlers. We're looking at India's innings breakdown. Now Virat Kohli sees that and sees that the first 6 overs yielded 54 runs for just the 1 wicket at a run rate of 9. You might think that's not a bad start. So what's this thing about it not quite being as easy? Then what follows in the next few overs is 5 for 50. Can you make sense of that innings looking at the pitch at the Chinnaswamy?
No, I think it was a good thing that he said, okay, we want to put ourselves under pressure, because it could very well happen in the World Cup that you lose a toss on a difficult pitch. That's as good a start as you can expect, even on a good pitch. Is the wickets. You kept losing wickets, no real partnerships through that middle. Perhaps you needed to assess conditions that it wasn't a 180, 190 or 200 pitch. A little bit, 150, 160 perhaps might not have been enough the way South Africa batted, and it certainly got better to bat second time around. But clearly India didn't get the job done. In spite of putting themselves under pressure, that's the thing that they'll have to work on. That if they lose a toss and they go on to bat, you cannot lose 5 wickets in the space in that middle period, which then becomes very difficult to accelerate towards the end. In spite of India having a long or deepish batting, it is very hard, because the bowlers are always on top, and there's still just enough. So when you have wickets in hand, I think you can hit a bit more freely. There are a couple of guys in that lineup who need a bit more cricket. Hardik Pandya today looked like he's not had, he clearly hasn't had a lot of cricket, I think.
But it looked like that as well.
Yeah,
it looked like Hardik Pandya was out of...
Yeah, his batting, he tried to, of course conditions were difficult, but tried to go for the big shots. Perhaps not enough rhythm, not enough cricket. His bowling showed again that he needs to play a bit of cricket. Hopefully goes back to domestic cricket now that he's fit again, and get some cricket under his belt, because there's no substitute for match sharpness or match fitness, and that can be seen. So and a couple of very soft dismissals in that period as well. So you don't want, you're going to win very few games if you lose 5 for 50 or 50 in that middle period in any game. So those things for India to work on, and it's not a bad situation to find yourselves in, and hopefully next time they are in that, they can respond a bit differently.
Yeah, it got even easier for South Africa with the way Quinton de Kock started, and his unbeaten 79 made sure that the rest of the innings was more or less a formality. And as we look at our Star Sports Balla versus Ball leaderboard, we'll see that Quinton de Kock features as the top batsman of this series based on ESPNcricinfo's smart stats, a strike rate of 147, the batting impact of 182. So he follows up that 50 in the second T20I at Mohali with another impressive knock here. So it looks like the weight of captaincy doesn't seem to be a burden. Early days and just 2 games. But Quinton de Kock looks like he's up for it.
Yeah, should have made him captain about 5 years back.
Maybe for the World Cup.
Really responsible innings, and again, just his aggressive self, not trying to change his game because he's captain. Obviously wasn't a great score that they were chasing, but they still needed to get the job done. Early wickets at that point could have put pressure on that inexperienced middle order, and who knows, we saw Jadeja towards the end get a few balls to grip, might have made it a bit more interesting. But really good innings, and those sorts of wins for a team that's rebuilding can only give them confidence. So, and your leader performing in both the games, surely it makes it a lot easier to then demand from your team the things you want.
It doesn't make it easier for India that they managed to get him out, but didn't have a review at the time, which again it takes us to it's a little thing, but something to work on over the next year is perhaps the review system that we know Virat Kohli is always keen to take, but it can bite you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're going to get some right and some.
But
may
in
not
this
go
case, there are marginal calls.
That's as bad a review as you'll ever see.
And Kohli saw he covered his face with the cap.
Clearly, it's not his fault in this instance. I mean, not that it's anyone's fault. Sometimes you go with your gut, but whoever, whether it was Rishabh Pant or Chahar or somebody else saying, I mean, that was a shocker. I think those sorts of mistakes you don't want to make. Because there's only one review and might have made a difference if they had it in hand against Quinton de Kock.
You know, and as we move on from that incident, because we have to give full credit to South Africa's bowlers, even if you would have got that wicket of Quinton de Kock at this stage, you did feel that they had India didn't have enough runs. So credit to South Africa's bowling, and in the top three bowlers of the series, as we look at the Balla versus Ball contest by Star Sports, and essentially it was a series touted as South Africa's bowlers versus India's batsmen. And the fact that South Africa's bowlers prevailed in Bangalore on the night is testament to why they've levelled the series. And we now know the names of Bjorn Fortuin and Bjorn Hendricks. We have seen a bit of in the IPL. Tabraiz Shamsi we've seen before, but they feature as the top three bowlers. The bowling impact being better than any of the other bowlers in both teams, and the bowling impact as per ESPNcricinfo's Smart Stats is the combined value of the smart economy, the quality of wickets, and the phase in which the bowler has bowled. So that's a few tick marks as well. They sent a young side to India, and in spite of the start with the washout and whatnot, it's a fair reflection of this young side that they managed to take something away from the series.
Yeah, I mean, good conditions to bowl on at the start. They would have been very happy that India decided to bat, but they still had to bowl well. I mean, this is still a very good Indian batting lineup. You can see the start. India got the start, just one down, 50 odd in that first 6 over period. So they were under a little bit of pressure, but they've responded well and kept picking wickets. There were some big shots or some soft wickets that India gave on the day, but they made the most of it. Again, most teams will be looking at who those guys are who respond well under pressure, and South Africa seem to have found a couple of guys in Fortune and Bjorn Hendricks who both responded well at the opportunity that they've got.
All right. Well, that's a wrap from this series. Ajit Agarkar, thank you very much. It's a T20I series that perhaps would have deserved a deciding game, but as it turns out, well done to South Africa, who came into this series as, you could say, underwhelming favourites, and they've managed to take something away from it. They've levelled the series courtesy of a 9-wicket win in Bengaluru. This wraps up our ESPNcricinfo match day presented by Mutual Funds Sahiya.